So you'll save with the swap. And tell us exactly what do you need, and we'll recommend you if it's related to onboarding to reach a hard project.
Mike, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. I do. It's on kind of T-shares. If I can try to verbalize this, if anyone's comfortable speaking around T-shares.
Go for it.
So I'll just use rough numbers. Say you have 10 T-shares and it cost you, your investment to acquire those was 20,000 hex each at 10 cents a piece, right? We know T-shares are going up in incremental value. They don't go down. So the cost to acquire a T-share in hex terms is ever increasing. My question is, if I kind of formulate this, is if I'm an investor today versus an investor 2 years from now, could we ever get to a point where hex is still, let's say 2 years from now, still at 10 cents theoretically, but my cost to acquire a T-share is now 60,000 hex? My question being, as that cost in hex terms to acquire a T-share goes up, is it directly correlated with a direct increase on the payout per T-share?
No.
Okay, so theoretically, 2 years from now, it can cost you, 60,000 hex to acquire a T-share, right? That's a constant. We know that is ever increasing. But your payout per T-share could remain the same as it is today, 6.3 per hex, let's say, or per T-share on average, right?
Yes.
Depends on
a lot of factors.
Depends on how many stakers. Right now, there's 9% total stake. So when that increases, the least amount, the payout goes down. That's why potentially, on Pulsechain, people are all going to go over there and stake. And if that 9% turns into 30%, then the T-share payout is going to be less because there's more people staked.
Okay, that makes sense, I guess. And I'm a full believer in hex. I'm not fudding it or anything like that. I'm here for a reason. I'm trying to look at it from a perspective 2 years from now, and I hope there's a reasonable answer and I didn't find some hole in the game. I doubt I did here. But if I'm an investor 2 years from now and I'm looking at past performance essentially, right? Hey, why would I turn dollars into hex that gets me the same ROI? It used to be 21,000 hex that gets me a T-share that pays me out 6.3. Now it's 60,000 hex that gets me a T-share and it only pays me out 6.3. I guess I'm cautious about that.
Yeah, I don't think that the math checks out. So, you have to ask yourself, one, do you think the price is going to continue to go up, right? Two, what do people do when they have that hex? Probably going to stake it. We're like right now, and also like that's why like if you have hex, you should stake it and just start to get those T-shares coming in, because if you make that decision now, by the time 2 years comes around, depending on what your stakes look like, you've already brought in a fuck ton more hex, and you can continue to roll that. You're always going to be on the receiving end of these emergency end stakes. We've seen some insane emergency end stakes come through. And, we've seen the T-share payout rate go from, it was averaging around 6, and now it's been up at like 6.3, 6.3, I think is the highest it's been. But we've seen some really big emergency end stakes, and one day in January it went up to like 11 hex per T share. And like if you have 100 T shares, you know, it's a good amount of hex just in a single day. And so, yeah, I mean, I see your point, but I think the two are more correlated than you think. So like the price of the T share does correlate with the price of hex, because if the price of hex is down, the dollar value of that T share is going to be down, even if the amount of
So
hex
if we speak about the payout per T share, let's forget the dollar value at this point. So there are essentially two factors that enter into the payout per T share daily. Okay, it's the number of total T shares, which depends on the percentage of the HEX that is staked, and the total supply, right? Because the HEX that you are getting is based on the total supply, and as the total supply increases over the years, the payout, if the number of HEX staked stays the same, eventually the payout would increase. But again, that highly fluctuates based on the percentage of people that are staked now versus those that will be staked on the future. If the number of people staked increases, then that inflation is divided by more people, and so each T share will receive less less payout per T share, right? On the other hand, if on top of the extra supply, you also have less T shares in the system, which probably means less people staking, then your T share per payout will increase. So we cannot say for sure what will happen, because it will depend mainly on those two factors, and we don't know what those will be in the future.
Where does the inflation come from?
The inflation is the inflation. It's new X that is created based on the total supply. So X inflates at the rate of a maximum rate of 3.69% per year based on the current supply. And so all the X that was minted counts for that total supply. But the actual inflation tends to be lower, so the effective inflation is lower because because it is only minted when a stake ends. So if a lot of people have 15-year stakes, that the inflation will only be minted after those 15 years, right? So the effective inflation tends to be 1 to 2% in average so far.
The better question is who gets the inflation, and who gets the inflation?
Yeah, exactly. You get inflation, the stakers. That's where your daily payout comes from, and that's why the total supply increasing would likely, and the pool staying the same, would likely mean that you will receive more payout per T share. But again, you have to consider all the variables, not only the increasing supply.
Hey, Mike, if you would like some more information and a short 7-page PDF from a good community member that understands T-shares, he built this PDF in layman's terms with really good examples and some good explanations. If you just go to howtopulse.com/cryptogoose, you'll have the link there for the PDF. It's a quick 7-page, and it's really detailed with some really great examples that could help you out.
Oh no, thank you for that. And I'm familiar with Goose, and I will look into it. It was more just, to be honest, kind of seeing I don't think anyone here is clearly we'd love number to go up, right? But frustrating few days, right? We're all experiencing it's okay. I'm not jumping ship or anything like that. It's just more like contemplating this in my mind of 2 years from now. I wish someone would be able to tell me that hey Mike, every time that the T-share rate, let me formulate this correctly, every time that the T-share rate goes from 6.3 to 7, as that increases, I know the payout, you're getting more, right? You're getting a larger percentage with a higher rate on the T-share. My fear is being that, again, like 2 years from now, it costs me 60,000 hex to acquire a T-share, and I'm still only getting paid out 6.3%. I wish it was, and maybe I'm wrong, like I wish there was more of a direct correlation as the T-share rate increases in hex terms, what it costs you in hex terms to acquire a T-share, the payout or the return rate, 6.3 to 6.5 to 7 is correlated with that it drags it along with it. So you're always looking at, yes, it costs me more to get a T-share, but yes, I'm also getting a higher percentage rate in T-share return.
So what would be the benefit of having the T-share rate system then? If the increase in T-shares in T-share rate would be directly correlated with the T-share payout, then it would be useless to have the T-share rate increase to begin with, right? And the T-share rate increase exists to stimulate compounding interest, making so that the people that started staking earlier get the benefit of that compound, quote unquote, compound interest compared to the people that stake later. It's like if you're going to buy a stock in 2000, if you bought Apple in 2000 versus in 2010, well, probably the dividends they pay is exactly the same, but the stock is worth more, right?
Sure, that makes sense, and that's, I understand. I wish I would have acquired my T-shares in 2019, right? We all do. I guess like my fear is, and I'm not jumping ship like I said, but I'm probably not doing the best explaining it as well too. Like if I'm an investor again 2 years from now, and I'm looking hypothetically today, right? I get 6.3 hex per T-share. It costs me about 21,000 hex. 2 years down the road, hey, it cost me 60,000 hex to get a T-share, and I get 6.3%. Oh, that's, how would an investor 2 years from now look at that? I don't think it'd be as strong of an ROI conversation.
Again, it depends on the entire state of the ecosystem, because the stakes will not only be more expensive for the new people, but the old people, when their stakes end, if they want to get more, they will need to buy it at the same rate as everyone else. So if I have a 5-year stake, I lock my T-share rate at 5 years before, but if that period ends and I want to stake again, I need to pay the same as everyone else, right? So my benefit is during the duration of my stake. As soon as my stake ends and I need to start my stake again, I have to pay the same T-share rate as everyone else, right? And so over time,
that's what I mean.
over time
that
it
makes
will
sense.
be exactly, and over time it will be more difficult for everyone to get T-shares. So the number of T-shares in the pool will most likely reduce over time, meaning a higher payout. So those are not directly correlated. It's not like one goes up 3x and the other one 3x, but there's some sort of self-balancing mechanisms that make sure that it will always be some sort of benefit in staking.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting you. As I say, you nailed it right there. I was overthinking it, and that's really what it is. And it's really, do you have a belief in hex or not, right? And that's a totally different conversation. But that's, clearly I'm here to stake. I don't know why you wouldn't be. So no, thank you for clarifying it. And I agree. I see, yes, it costs more and more hex to acquire a T-share, but we also see, I don't know, 6 months ago, maybe a little more than that, we weren't really in the sixes. Now we're probably averaging 6.2, 6.3. And then correct me if I'm wrong, from stuff I've seen, it looks like, projected at least, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years from now, those T-share or rate per.
Can you say the last part again? I missed what you said.
Yeah, sorry, my phone called in on me there. From what I've seen, and no one has a crystal ball, but it looks like, this year we're going to average, call it just for sake of conversation, 6.3 for T-share. And then in 2023, it's 7. And then 2024, it's 9. By the time you get to, I don't know, 2025, 2026, 2027, it really starts to take a more exponential curve. It goes from 7 to 9 to 15 to 25. It grows, looks like it compounds exponentially.
So that's a possibility, but you also need to take into consideration that imagine that right now we only have 10% of the X stake, but in 10 years from now it's 20% of X stake. So you have the same supply, the same inflation being divided by the double, in terms of percentage, double the percentage of X stake, right? And so that will counterbalance the APY you will receive on your stake, so the T-share payout, the T-share daily payout. But if you have 10% more people staked and 10% more people into X, probably the price of X went up. So again, it's a self-balancing system where you have to account for the number of people that are in the system and stake in the system versus the inflation that's being minted and divided by those people that are staked. And so if we assume that the percentage of people staked will stay the same, yes, most likely the payout per share will increase. But you can also think that if X gets more adoption and the percentage of X stake gets bigger, then that will decrease the T-share payout, the T-share daily payout. So you have to always consider the two factors.
Oh, makes sense. Thank you, guys.
I've got a kind of a completely non-technical and more of a gee whiz question, but obviously the crypto market is, I think a couple people were on the chat earlier talking about this, how it's the most volatile, market around today. And I just wanted to see what people's opinion that as we get more mass adoption, not just into Pulsechain, but as we get mass adoption into crypto in general, do you think that the volatility will also decrease subsequently?
Well, I believe that for that to happen, the number of people holding crypto would need to increase by a lot. It's still a minority of the people that hold actual crypto or at least any real amount of crypto. But sure, of course, if crypto gets massively adopted, then the price will stabilize at some point because there's no more people to buy, right? If everyone is in crypto, who else is going to buy crypto? So, and by not being able to buy, the price won't pump, right? And will probably stabilize at some sort of level. But I see that being very far away still, because only a minority of people to this day hold crypto or really know about it.
Yeah, and probably by then, even just 10 years from now, we may not be to that kind of stability, but crypto will also continue to evolve. That's why I asked about the consensus protocols on Pulsechain earlier, because obviously, when Bitcoin came out, that was revolutionary, right? And then as crypto has evolved, there's now new ways of thinking, new ways of doing things. And I really respect RH for being on the cutting edge of everything right now. But 10 years from now, hopefully RH continues to evolve with crypto as it will, as anything in life will continue to evolve. So I'm sure there's going to be more developments in crypto in general that will also encourage more stability, encourage more adoption, etc. So again, I just not really a technical question or anything like that, just kind of more of a gee-whiz random thought in my head. So
I would see it like the internet, right? It started inside a company, inside the military, for very niche and specific purposes, and over time it gained traction. More more things were built on it. It started to be easier for people to use it, and now like everyone in the world uses the internet and goes online at one point or another, right? So you can think of it the same way. First is hard, then gets easier, then more things are built, more adoption is gained, and it will probably reach a point where people are using it daily. And it's a process that takes decades, right?
Or even like the stock market, that's been around a long time, yet it still has 80% drops every now and then. So I don't know. I'm not sure which way how I would think about that.
Well, I wouldn't really compare the stock market to crypto, because you could actually use crypto as currency if you wanted, and you cannot use stocks as currency, right?
yeah, plus the crazy thing about blockchain, is that it has so much more vast use cases for what it could do. I'm a general contractor, and as I've been studying blockchain the last couple of weeks, I got a couple blockchain books. My mind is just spinning with the possibility of chain of custody receipts, and how all of the issues that I'm currently having in my business for from a supply chain standpoint. I mean, there's so many use cases, or not use cases, wrong. There's so many potential use cases that I could see blockchain just completely revolution. So it's like I feel like we're at the beginning stages of the Wild West expansion. It's the next industrial revolution, and I think Pulsechain, bringing it back to what we're about in this chat. Pulsechain, I think, with the research that I'm doing, which again, I've said this numerous times over the last month, I'm a noob to crypto in general, but with the research I am trying to do, I just feel like Pulsechain is on the cutting edge of what is the next biggest thing in crypto right now, which is why I'm so excited for the project in general. But I mean, yeah, man, like crypto in general, blockchain in general, like this is kind of it's the next big thing. It's you mentioned the internet, the dot com, bubble, and all the different things that we've gone through just in my lifetime. There's just like, yeah, dude, blockchain and crypto, like this is the next big thing. And I think within that sphere, Pulsechain is the next big thing within the next big thing, which is part of why I think it's going to do so well, and why I'm excited to be here and part of this community. Because if I'm right, that blockchain and crypto is the next big thing, and then within that, like I said, Pulse is the next big thing within that. I mean, dude, like this thing is wild. It's going to be great.
Yeah,
People sometimes confuse blockchain with cryptos, and blockchain is an underlying technology that allows for cryptocurrencies to
Correct.
exist.
No,
it's not the same thing as
I completely
cryptocurrency,
understand
right?
that. I completely understand that, but obviously, cryptocurrency and all the protocols are built on blockchain technology, right? And so that's just we're in the middle of an endless and again, so I guess I'm more talking about gee whiz macro level stuff that isn't really pertinent to necessarily Pulsechain. So for that, forgive me, guys, but I am bullish on Pulsechain because you know, within this new Wild West expansion, you know, world that we're living in right now, Pulsechain is the next big thing within crypto, which crypto's, you know, part of blockchain. And, you know, so it's just, you know, just random thoughts. Again, it wasn't really anything super technical, just random thoughts on a macro level.
Crypto is amazing because the working guy can actually have a chance to make life-changing wealth. It couldn't be dead. It's too hard in the stock market. With crypto, you can do it.
Agreed. And bringing it back to RH and Pulsechain, I mean, that's part of what attracted me initially when my buddy turned me on to Richard Hart and Pulsechain almost a year ago now. I didn't really get into it right away. Took me time, you know, to kind of just hear it several times. Started doing some initial research, and then it wasn't really until beginning of this year that I got into it. But what I really respected about Richard Hart, in spite of all his, you know, all his rough around the edges talk that some people in this, you know, chat have commented that they don't like, but in spite of all of that, you peel back the layers of the onion, and at his core, he really truly cares about the common man. And what you just said, Bieber, I think it was you, Bieber, but what you just said about, you know, the common man, this is where the common man can make it. And, you know, Richard Hart has been clear about calling out scammers, calling out rug pulls, calling out all these other things. And I respect that because he really, you know, he's cut from the same cloth. He might be a billionaire now, but he came up from nothing, just like probably most of us in this room have. So, you know, he's cut from the same cloth. He's one of us. And I think deep down, in spite of, you know, some of the stuff that, again, people have, you know, been negative about him for, it's like, dude, just sift through that, get to the core, and at his core, there's a shit ton of good, you know.
It's working, and I want to double down that. Like right now, I was just putting two and two together that he invited out the girls that he did the interview with, the Playboy model and their photographer. And they're just like doing fun, cool stuff. You know, it's like he's a real guy on the same frequency and level as all of us. You know, like in what world do you have access to, you know, the founder of a revolutionary technology? Like you can't just like potentially message Elon Musk right now. You know, you know, I was saying before, like I actually kind of had. I started to be able to pull back and see the cringe marketing like working. If you spend time on Twitter, which I do, and I kind of track now with the algorithm, it's showing me, you know, who Richard's talking to, and you can see that he goes back into this industry, and all the people. Crypto is not a big, it's not a big party. There's not that many people, you know, that you don't know who's who, or who, you know, the leaders of the Bitcoin maxis or the ETH maxis are. They're there, and like they know of Richard, and I think he's won them all over. Especially where he was like, "Who do you think that $1 billion came from?" You know, for their sacrifices. It's a lot of these individuals that, you know, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, can't get fooled again. Yeah. Sorry, that was the J. Cole George Bush rendition. But you know, it hurts when if it hits the bag. But beyond that, like I see the cringe marketing working. And if you look at some of the great, you know, whether it's a band, you know, whether it's, you know, Warhol, whether it's, you know, rock and roll, it's like there's always been these outliers on the edge, kind of flipping the script. And look at the rest of the founders, you know, like why can't we have the rock star founder? You know, like that is what's going to get attention, you know, like we got, and at the end of it, at the end of the day, like I don't think he's like fully like that. I think he really is, you know, a pretty humble dude who like, you know, was raised the way he was raised. I love that interview that the girls did with him, where you really got to see the vulnerable side of him, like learn about his mother, right? Like kind of understand some of the things in relation to his life, like where he is and what he's doing. And if you really understand, you know, great leaders and how to identify legacy and people that are not just there for the money, like he has the money. Like at a certain point, when you get to that level of wealth, like you want to be happy and you want to help people. Like when is enough enough? So I think he's kind of proving that point, and I'm glad to see that that he flew out those girls, you know, and that they're like having fun, and he's not too busy for anybody, you know, like he's actually there and open and accessible. And I think the product will speak for itself, and I think that he's a couple big interviews away from getting that viral momentum. And as soon as people have a place to pile in, they're going to pile in.
I really like that interview with the Playboy model and his friend.
But you can see how I think he really appreciated it too, enough to like, you know, fly them out there and be friends and like hang out and you know, go pull up to the event last night, you know, and they were in the car, and it's just like, oh, Richard's hanging out with Playboy models. Like I hear people like saying that, you know, I'm like, which Playboy models? And then I look and I was like, oh, it's those girls, you know. So, and they're dope, and they shoot great content. Like I see that they've been doing some photo shoots with him. Like she's an amazing photographer, so that's a plus, right? Like as much high quality content of Richard that we can get out there, like that's super important. And so, you know, it's one thing to, you know, like all these different articles and stuff that came out. Like he was getting that, you know, the Business Insider. I don't know who Watcher.guru is on Twitter, but they've been getting, God, every time I do that, it opens this up. They've been getting a lot of really great Watcher.guru on Twitter. Yeah, they have 1 million followers, and they're really into Richard's stuff. They post pretty highly of him. So, you know, I also
Yeah, I happen to be the only place that actually gives correct news about tech.
they posted something the other day that said that crypto.com has 50 million users. 50 million? It's a lot. I've never really used crypto.com, but I guess it's. Does anyone use it as an exchange?
I don't.
I have a security question. If you connect your DApp, let's say you connect to a DApp on the RinkB testnet, do you put your other assets on other networks in danger, or is it only the DApp, the testnet you're on?
The RinkB testnet is a testnet for Ethereum, so it's not related with your assets on the actual Ethereum.
So any, like for example, if I'm on the PulseX testnet and I connect to a third party DApp and I have to do that to test out their features, I'm not in danger of affecting other networks like a mainnet Ethernet or a mainnet Pulse.
Correct, unless you give them your seed phrases.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
If I could just jump on to Robert's question there about the DApp. So am I right in thinking then that your wallet is only at risk from a DApp if you put your seed phrase in, even if it was a dodgy DApp?
No, you have the risk that they wipe all that address on that network. So if you approve a nefarious DApp on an address on Ethereum or on Pulse, and you have funds on Ethereum, Pulse on that address, you will be wiped.
Okay, thank you. That's what I thought. Okay.
Basically, they can only wipe the network that you give them access to. So if you give them access on the testnet, since you don't hold anything of value on the testnet, it's not an issue.
Ah, right. Okay, now I understand where your answer come from. Yeah. So if they if it was on, for argument's sake, Ethereum, then they could go in there and they could clean you out on Ethereum. But I'm super cautious with dApps anyway. But no, brilliant. Thank you.
Just the reason I asked is because a lot of projects, third-party projects, they have their own dApps, and they have to work on some testnet, and you have to connect to play their game or whatever their application is. So as long as I can just rinse my testnet, I really don't care.
I agree with what you say there, Robert, because for me, I would be extremely dubious. I don't care who it would be. I would be really cautious of signing into any dApp for anything, even if you thought it was the safest thing in the world, because I don't know, you just can't trust them, can you?
Yeah, you'd have to have somebody read the code for you first, or something crazy like that.
Yeah, get the guinea pigs on it first, mate. Yeah, and then if it's okay, yeah, then we'll play.
Yes. Speaking of matcha XYZ, I've got a limit order that's ready to not be met. The gas fee for that, I assume, is not a full swap. It's just a portion when it doesn't hit.
I missed your question. Could you answer? Could you ask it again about matcha?
Yeah. When the limit order doesn't go through, it's not as much as a swap that's going to be charged. It's just, I think it's less than a swap fee, because I don't want to get hit $300 for a limit order that didn't go through. I didn't read the fine print when I placed my limit order.
That's a good question, because I was thinking, I was under the impression that if they didn't execute the order, there was no fee at all. And in fact, with the limit order, you will not get your fee deducted from your Ethereum balance. You won't pay a fee at all, I thought.
Right. Oh, if it doesn't hit, if it goes away, okay. Hopefully. I'll have to look. I've got 12 hours.
I don't know for sure, but I was under the impression you weren't getting a fee if it didn't execute.
Yeah, you can always reject the transaction. So if you want to cancel the limit order, just cancel it and see if MetaMask pops up, because you can't get charged a fee unless you accept the fee on MetaMask and your hardware wallet if you're using the hardware. Does that make sense? You would accept the transaction. My experience on 1inch, I haven't used matcha limit orders, but on 1inch, it's other than paying for the token approval, which, also be smart, don't give unlimited approvals to things as a side note, but you pay a few bucks for the token approval and then everything after that's free. Posting the orders, canceling the orders, filling the orders, all the gas is paid by the buyer or the seller, whichever side of the trade you're on.
So before you sign a transaction on my ledger, I should go into MetaMask and put do not use all my or unlimited access to all my percentage
let me back up a little bit and explain that. So you already set some kind of token approval whenever you made the limit order. Whenever you set up the limit order, you would have had to do a token approval. I think by default it's unlimited, but the recommended thing to do, at least for me, is go in and set a reasonable limit. Like if you're planning on, maybe don't set it for exactly the amount that you're trying to buy or sell, but maybe if you're trying to buy 10,000 hex, for instance, your token approval may be approved 20,000 or 15,000 hex worth of USDC, for instance. So in that case, you would have USDC and you would be trying to limit order for hex. So whichever token you have is the token that you have to sign the token approval for. So in that instance, you've got say $5,000 worth of USDC. You want to buy $1,000 worth of hex. I don't recommend putting your token limit as exactly 1,000 USDC. You maybe do like 1100 or something like that. Something that's above what you're trying to, or the operation you're trying to do, but not like crazy, not like every
where do you see that?
ever comes in.
Where do you see that? Because I adjusted my price. I made my limit order and I adjusted my price to where I want it to head. I didn't see where to adjust my USDC.
Yeah, you have to. So in MetaMask, you have to manually adjust the token approval. Whenever you first, the reason it doesn't, probably what's happened is the first time you placed an order, it asked for the token approval and you set it through as default, which default is unlimited. And so then it never asks for your permission again, because it has permission to spend unlimited amount of whatever token you approve. So the alternative is what you can do once you get your order canceled, you can go to Etherscan and use the revoke permissions tool and just clear off all the permissions that you have, all the token approvals that you have for that address. And then the next time you go to place a limit order, when it pops up and says, hey, 1inch or Matcha or whoever is requesting token approval, you just click the edit permissions. And what you'll probably see is like a long, like scientific notation looking number, like 1.56, a whole bunch of decimals and an E, which is basically, shorthand for infinite. Instead, you
then below
look at the next slot down that says manual approval, and you have to change the little radio button down to a manual token amount allowance.
Advanced.
And then you set it to whatever limit that you want. Like I said, I suggest something reasonable. I would never.
Is it a percentage? Isn't it like 2%, 5%, or is there going to be a 1,200?
No, that's slippage.
Okay, that's my slippage.
About what I'm talking about is basically giving one
what you're talking about.
Matcha permission to spend a certain amount of tokens.
Of that token, it'll show it.
Right.
Okay, so I got to order in for 11.
What's happening is you are telling the smart contract that governs whatever token you're trying to sell, because remember, 1inch is always a sell. A limit order is always a sell. You're selling whatever you have to get something else that you don't have. So what you're doing is you're telling the smart contract that governs the USDC token, for instance, hey, USDC smart contract, 1inch has the rights to spend X amount of tokens out of my address in the conditions that I have already prearranged for them, which are usually.
Oh yes. So it's always a sell when we think that we're buying. Yeah, we think that we're buying, but it's actually we're letting them.
Blockchains can't pull. Blockchains can't pull. They can only push. You can never pull a transaction from someone else. If you're quick and you have a pending transaction, you can cancel it, but you can never actually pull something from someone else's assets. So you're giving 1inch, for instance, permission to spend 1,000 USDC tokens when the price of HEX reaches your a little bit low. What usually happens.
Can't you just let the limit order expire and you won't get charged anything?
You can, but why would you? I mean, if you want to make a new limit order, or if you want to change your token permissions, then or your contract permissions, then like I said, I've done quite a few of these recently, and the only thing you pay for is the token approval. When you're posting the order, canceling the orders, it's free. All you have to do is basically you're signing a statement on the 0x network, your limit order actually lives on the 0x network. And then when the price reaches your limit order, 0x grabs the tokens out of your address, shoves them over into the DEX to make the trade, and then shoots the whatever token you're buying back into your address. And all that's made possible by basically the pre-signed transactions that you do. The first one that you do for your address, letting the smart contract, for instance, the USDC smart contract, letting that contract know that the 0x network has permissions to spend tokens on your behalf. And then the second message you sign is the actual details of the limit order itself that get posted to the 0x network.
Okay, and you can change
this much, and when the price of that thing drops to this amount, take this much of what I have and give me back.
Yeah.
About this.
That's on the second. That's on the second approval. Okay. Yeah, because I did approve it twice. Right. Yeah.
Yep.
So is there a fee if you cancel a limit order?
Again, in the last, I've been using limit orders for a very specific use case in the last few weeks, and I have not paid fees to post them or cancel them. The only fee I pay is to register the token.
Okay,
there is a fee
you.
on Matcha if you cancel.
Well, I mean, Matcha is stupid.
Okay.
I just want to tell them that I'm not in the U.S. because 1inch is not a government. I don't give a shit what they think about serving.
We're not supposed to use 1inch. We're not supposed to use 1inch though.
I don't care about what 1inch
okay.
thinks about serving.
That's fine.
I use a VPN.
That's fine.
And I lied to them because they are nuts.
Okay.
1inch is, not you.
So you must use a VPN or something to use 1inch.
Yeah. Yes, I'm not suggesting that anyone else do exactly what I do. But if you want to do exactly what I did, I turned on a VPN, said I'm in Switzerland, and signed their statement, their bullshit, non-legally binding statement saying that I'm not in the U.S. and I'm not doing business in the U.S. because I think that they can suck it. And then from that point on, they don't care if you use a VPN or not. They'll take your orders. They just want the CYA.
Do you think it's sarcastic that we use 1inch exchange, but yet the founder has a massive PP?
It took me a second to get that. So you're saying we should be using the 6.3 inch in circumference exchange?
The Red Bull deck?
If there's not a big PP Inu on Pulsechain, I'm very disappointed in the scammers.
I was thinking about making that. It would pump.
Someone was asking about crypto.com. I've actually been using that as my on-ramp in a really weird way into HEX, because if the address you withdraw from is whitelisted, you can take your stuff away, which only takes 24 hours. But say I've been using the so-called layer 2. Like this week during this dump, I was able to swap USDC on crypto.com for once AVAX, once for whatever with the one with the cat on it, the spooky a Phantom. Was able to send those to my MetaMask, well, to my private wallet, my whatever, and then hook up my MetaMask, and that basically cost nothing to withdraw it. And then I was able to use Change Now to swap with Phantom and with AVAX for basic. I mean, you pay a little bit more on Change Now with the ratio, but it beat paying the ETH fees. It was a weird way to do it, but someone was asking about crypto.com, and that's the way I found to do it and avoid ETH fees with using sort of so-called layer twos. I was able to get HEX at 10 cents, HEX at 8 cents, and HEX at 7.9 cents using that method.
Yeah, you can do the same on Coinbase Pro. You just buy XLM and then use Change Now.
Yeah, I've been using Coinbase, and they held my funds for like 24 hours, and 15 emails later, they finally released them. But they just annoyed me. And there's, like I said, there's still some things they won't send because they're not on the Ethereum chain. And I had a bunch of junk that I wanted to get rid of, and I was like, oh, I can do it this way.
Okay, what did you do again? Explain that for everybody.
I used crypto.com. I had USDC in there. When I saw the dump happening, I dollar cost averaged in at certain points, and I was trading my USDC for things like AVAX or Phantom. And then I was able to withdraw that immediately because on crypto.com, your withdrawal addresses have to be whitelisted, which means they just have to be approved for 24 hours. So I had those because they're EVM chains already pre-approved in one of my like vault wallets that's linked to MetaMask. So I was able to withdraw immediately to those accounts, those other EVM chains, then swap for HEX, same thing, immediately on Change Now, and avoid, so much in gas fees.
Right. Hold on. So you traded inside of Coinbase, inside of what was it?
Crypto.com.
Crypto.com. You traded to AVAX in there, and then sent it over to MetaMask.
Yeah, my account that's linked, and I'm able to access it through my MetaMask. But yeah, basically the same idea. But I was able to swap out.
Yeah, you can swap it in crypto.com.
Yeah, I was able to swap my USDC for other things for zero charge. Now, to withdraw it to your private address, way more money. That's not what I'm doing. But to swap it within crypto.com to another crypto was zero.
Okay, then you just route that through Change Now.
I sent it from my crypto.com wallet to my personal wallet and then to Change Now, just because I didn't want any hangups with crypto.com. I wanted it in my possession before I did the swap on Change Now. But when you're using those other chains, the withdrawal fees it's like 2 cents.
Well, yeah, that was a good way. You went right around ETH. Cool.
Yeah, I don't like ETH. As much as I don't have to like them. Swap it in the HEX, it's so expensive to pay. As much as I like Uniswap and Matcha and the other things, it's kind of crazy when you want to try to catch something and you see a gas fee of like $60, $50. You're just like, I'll do it another way.
Hey, Dirty Pulsechain, how did you get whitelisted on crypto.com? You said you got whitelisted.
Yeah, well, what you have to do is anytime you withdraw any of your crypto on crypto.com to like a personal wallet, it has to be what's called whitelisted for 24 hours, meaning you tell them the address you are going to be withdrawing from. 24 hours later, they approve it. And then, but you only have to have it approved one time. So say you have like whatever AVAX address or whatever, hopefully soon Pulsechain, whatever. You put that address in, they put it through their verification process. 24 hours later, you can withdraw immediately from there. So you can I use my debit card sometimes. I can buy through there, but I had to do the whole, like, give them my info. So if you don't mind giving people your info, this method works for you. But yeah, as soon as that address is in there 24 hours, you can buy it and withdraw it immediately from them.
Well, I just did this. I mean, and this was going from my bank to crypto.com, and I had to wait like, 7, 8 days. It was almost exactly 7, maybe a little more. But I had put in the address. I'd set that up already because I was trying it. A day later, 2 days, 3 days later, and it wasn't letting me. It was giving me this error saying, I had to wait for funds to something. And I knew it was for clearing from the bank. That was the problem. But my thing is, I can't get around this waiting 7 days to clear the bank. So I can get it into my MetaMask and use it, and then the opportunity is missed usually.
Using a money wire or just a bank transfer?
Just a bank transfer, ACH connection.
Yeah, so ACHs or bank transfers can be pulled back or rescinded by the bank, upon your request saying, hey, no, I didn't approve that transaction up to 7 days. This is why all exchanges hold your funds for 7 days, right? So
yeah,
you can't use an ACH to do it. You have to use a money wire if you want it there instantly.
Oh, did he use a money wire?
I now
So
see
he's talking about
Crypto.com they allowed me to link my debit card. So I have a debit card which is solely for purchases of this or is linked to an account that I can just use, and they allow me to withdraw my funds immediately. Now, when I opened that account, I had to wait like 7 days or 14 days after opening the whole Crypto.com account before I could withdraw anything. Now, since I've been there for a little bit, I think I can use my debit card, buy stuff on there, and withdraw immediately as long as that address is a pre-whitelisted as they do address.
I think that's the difference. Yeah. So, but do they charge you a fee for that to use the debit card?
Yeah, but
Small
it's
fee.
not a lot. It's
Yeah.
not a lot. I
It's
mean,
like
it's not.
3%, right?
So,
It's like 3%. They're charging for using debit cards. Is 3%. 299.
yeah, it is what it is. It's price of doing business in this field.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I get it.
Tax,
But
Yeah.
if you're
They get
planning
you
to
one way or
buy,
the other.
sorry, if you're planning to buy a large amount or something like that, for the first 30 days is free. And when you want to use the debit card, is for first 30 days is for free. They don't put any charges on anything. I just opened the second account about a week and a half ago, and I've done large amount and it was free.
The card you said you were using, what was it?
Debit card. The money was on the account instantly.
Yeah, just another method of Tetris buying hex.
Exactly. And one more thing, man, I just want to ask if someone has experienced something like that. This morning, we got an email from my business bank, when I'm with like X amount of years, and they was asking me for my private assets. And obviously, I said to them, what is my private? It's my private, nothing to do with business. And they are threatening me to shut down my business account if I don't provide proof of assets, my private assets, where I invested. And they specifically, they did mention about crypto world. It's mental. I'm switching the banks because I already spoken to another bank, and I explained it to them. And they was explaining to me that this is regulated. I'm in the UK, so they specifically said it's regulated by FFC, and it's really, really strange. I don't know if someone experienced something like that.
I think it really just depends on the country, right? That's pretty scary, though. I mean, similar things happening in Canada, where they're going in and basically making non-custodial wallets illegal. Because isn't the UK the one that's implementing the CBDC?
Say it again.
The CBDC, like the central bank digital currencies.
I think they're planning to do something like that. Yeah, I've read the article about it.
Right. So I think that that's them getting in position to regulate it.
But the funny thing is this is one of the major European bank. It's not the UK bank. And when I've spoken to one of the major UK banks, they was like, no, you don't have to provide any of this information because business is not relating to your private assets. Nothing to do with it. Even if you're the owner and director, you still classified as, as a director, you work for the company, because it's a limited company. So it's nothing to do. I have a really 2-hour talk with one of the managers, and literally tomorrow we're going to sign the documents. We're going to switch the accounts because this is ridiculous. They walking into your private life and asking you have to prove them that what you own. It's like, what the fuck? Sorry for my words, Blank, again, but that was really strange. Honestly, we didn't know what to say when we listened to that conversation with them. It's a shame I didn't record it.
Hello. I've got a question. I'm not that knowledgeable on programming, but I noticed Richard Hart had said that they were switching from Solidity programming language to Go for Pulsechain, and I was wondering if anyone knows if that makes it much harder or longer to implement, or is it something that is pretty simple to implement?
Yeah, I think they've already done the change for the most part. I thought so. I think it's kind of a non-issue, but yeah, I mean, there's both parts exist in the blockchain code, right? Typically, Pulse or ETH, right, is written in Go, right? So you have Geth for Ethereum, right? Go Ethereum is Geth, or you have Go Pulse, right? Is what the developers have been working on, and that's generally written. It's written in Go, which is a much higher, language. Everything else, on the blockchain is written in smart contracts. So typically that's Solidity is what we're talking about, right? So the Solidity only operates within the EVM, and so it was really moving it from the validator rotation from the EVM side of things to kind of the top layer, right? So it should be much faster, more efficient to kind of do the validator rotation because of that. Yeah, and I think it's also cheaper as well, perhaps. Yeah. So, but I think it's already done. So I don't think that's something that they're working on per se, anymore, unless they're just double checking it. I don't know.
Very cool. Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you for that insight. I'm not versed on that, but it's always interesting to learn new things, and love listening to the chat and picking up stuff every day. You learn something new. So very cool. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
I just had a good friend reach out asking about Hex and what he needs to do. He said that he's out in LA and somehow they're all seeing that podcast with the Playboy models. And he said that he was actually on that podcast prior to Richard or something. And he's just like, dude, I'm seeing Hex everywhere in my like immediate kind of world. He's like, what do I got to do? So it's sticky. It's definitely out there and on people's minds. Just need to convert that. You know, that's how you sow the seeds for the beginning of the network effect. Like that's what we're trying to tap into and accomplish, because the network effect will bring you into the cultural zeitgeist. And once you've gotten into the cultural zeitgeist, it's in people's heads, and you know, it's only a matter of time before they convert. We just have to make those steps as easy as possible. That's what Richard means by pre-viral. Here's an interesting tweet. It says, in a similar way, Facebook collected all your info interests through pages, fans, music, photos. NFTs, as they become cheaper, all media info and interests will aggregate that information to individual user wallet. But instead of data being contained in Facebook, it can be used to build openly. it's a good way to kind of break down an analogy, maybe for even the older generation that is using Facebook. Might help kind of bring it down to a 5th grade understanding. Basically the difference between Web 2 and Web 3 in a nutshell. And then on top of that, add in your layer of digital currency. The other thing too is making it so seamless that like the normies don't even notice that they're on the blockchain, right? Like nobody asks what network Venmo uses. No one asks what network, Amex uses. You just know that the transaction's going to go through. So the less contact points for people and the less that they have to actually deal with, but they just know their product works and that they get to be the owner of their keys if they want to. They could be their own custodians. Give them the choice, Gonna be pretty interesting.